Let's bring in Glenn Carle. He's a former Deputy National Intelligence Officer for Transnational Threats for the CIA. He joins us now from Boston. Glenn, remarkably, Kirby literally just said that he didn't believe there were any signs an escalation is imminent in the region, although what's happened in the last 24 hours doesn't help. What did you make of that?
Well, of course, they were fascinating comments. What I took his statement about not any signs to mean was a rather specific allusion to what I believe would be there are no signs from the intelligence collected from the intelligence community, the military, and the diplomatic community of the United States that there are any counter steps in the works. The larger assessment that there is not anything that has happened or appears to be in the works, I think is true for the moment. I think that it's a sound assessment that to state that all the parties, which would be in this instance Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, and Israel, continue to wish to avoid a generalization and expansion of the war in Gaza into a regional war. But Mr. Kirby didn't address what I think is probably most likely, which is that Iran and secondarily and Hamas specifically is really obliged to respond, I think.
Well, speaking of intelligence and assessments, Kirby also didn't give away much there, despite Secretary of State Antony Blinken earlier saying that the US had no knowledge of plans for Haniyeh's assassination. Now, this happened in a week in which the Israeli and American intelligence chiefs were literally sitting at the same table in Rome. Iran has already written to the UN Security Council accusing the US of involvement in Haniyeh's death. How much credence do US denials have on the ground? Could US personnel and interests be at risk here?
Well, important subject. Your question really, I think, is based on what is certain to be, we know to be a widespread view, which is that American intelligence services certainly would know about a planned assassination or assault. But that is not true. Now, I'm not sitting in any position to have firsthand knowledge of this now, but I do know how the U.S. intelligence community and the Israelis specifically and other intelligence services interact. And the Israelis would never tell anybody, however close an ally, about a planned assassination that they were had in the works. And the Americans would not be likely to know. So I completely believe the statement that the U.S. was not informed and did not know. I'm also confident that if the U.S. did know in advance from its own sources, that it would have tried to dissuade or stop the Israelis from doing it. But I think that is true. It's also true, however, that no matter what I say, based on my past experience or American officials say in their capacities, that a lot of people will believe that.
Well, Kirby is also saying that the US will defend its interests in the region against threats, including those from Iran. How far does its commitment to protect Israel go?
Well, those are a couple of issues that you intertwine. We've heard from Tehran already, unsurprisingly, that it holds America partially responsible for what Iran always characterizes as the American surrogate, Israel. So if there were some sort of attack against American interests, which would largely need personnel or facilities in the region, or anywhere for that matter, the U.S. would certainly respond. But I think, again, in such a way that it tried to avoid a generalization of the conflict. If Iran or Hamas were to strike, as I expect they will at some point, in some retaliatory way against Israeli interests, then I expect that the U.S. would call for calm on all sides and try to stop things from escalating.
Glenn Carle there, a former Deputy National Intelligence Officer for Transnational Threats at the CIA. Always great to get your thoughts and insights, Glenn. Thank you so much for joining us on Al Jazeera.
Anytime.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.